Hello, this is Polyphonic video blog number 16, which is 15, 16, or 16, 17, and 18 were all kind of a combo log that I was recording on the fly, and I was working that particular day. I had 3 different jobs in one day, so I was trying to kind of get through all of those jobs and figure out how I can talk the best about them all. And for some reason only the junior high one was able to upload, and the other ones weren't able to upload off of my tablet, which I'm on the go a lot. Actually, right now I'm in I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I'm catching up with fiance and wedding stuff, and trying to keep all that stuff planned. But so I was a little bummed that my other ones didn't upload when I went back and looked at my YouTube. But kind of what I wanted to run with, one of kind of the things that's going on more recently for me is what I'll call the one phone call. And it's one of those things where you never know when literally one phone call will unfold into something else. And the more skills you have, the more things you can do is really helpful. So the one phone call I got a while ago, and unfortunately it's one of those few gigs that I'm actually not allowed to talk about. And it's just all I can say is that it's really important to never forget how to, first of all, be respectful to everyone and be professional for everyone, but don't be professional to the point of where it's not personal. And that's one thing that is really helpful, where you have to do, you want to be respectful and professional, but at some point some people, depending on your clientele, will be stodgy or will be in a situation where they're like, well, that's maybe not the kind of person they're working for. Like, let's say you're working, a lot in the classical industry, and you're getting a lot of, work through that, and in that there's a level of respect. But if you kind of carry that level of that same kind of demeanor, which isn't, it's kind of an unfair assumption, but carry that kind of demeanor into different venues that may or may not be the appropriate place for it. And so sometimes, like, I'll have gigs with people who are not classically trained musicians, and they're more kind of the rocker genre. And if you show up in a tuxedo to that kind of a gig, you're going to be in trouble, which of course nobody would. But it's interesting because one of the guys that I work with on a regular basis, who is a producer and works a lot with with more of the pop genre, he was kind of commenting, and we kind of had this interesting discussion about what makes classical musicians so hard to fit into, like, the rockers, and vice versa. And because obviously I'm a classically trained musician, and he was hiring me to do, like, a lot of the bands that he had worked for, never wrote down any of their music, and now they're wanting to kind of get out there and get going, and they want other people to play their music, but they don't have anything written down. So if let's say if they're going on a tour and they need to hire local musicians, like, they're going to be in trouble, because the local musicians are going to say, well, we need charts, we need to at least look at it. And it was interesting because we were talking about the different ways that pop musicians versus classically trained musicians think, and how we notate music completely differently. Where particularly classical musicians, like, unless it's a repeated figure for 50 some bars, like, they want to see the music. They aren't just kind of like, okay, kind of do this until this is the lyric in the chorus. You just kind of keep going until the lyrics change. Well, it's interesting because a lot of the classically trained musicians would prefer to just have 84 bars, of a similar figure, or with the slight changes, or as opposed to just literally one bar of the figure and then repeat until this note. And they've had, he was saying that they had some problems because they would try to hire people and they just couldn't read the charts. So it was just really interesting seeing how there are these little small differences, and kind of how the jazz, I don't want to say classically trained jazz musicians, but formally trained jazz musicians are kind of that bridge in between, where they understand both vernaculars, and how I have nothing but the utmost respect for a lot of these jazz musicians, because they can kind of talk in both languages. And it's interesting because I remember reading an article about how, like, Wynton Marsalis, for example, was, you can't be both. Sooner or later, one of the two communities forces you to make a decision. And I think that's a pretty terrible thought process, but unfortunately, I remember hearing, Marsalis did a master class in my undergrad, and I remember him saying that, unfortunately, at one point they did make that call, and it wasn't his call. He wanted to do both. but they wouldn't let him. You know, they would either say, "Oh, he's legit and he can't swing with the cats," or he's like, "Oh, he's a jazzer and he can't, you know, play anything but swing." So it's always something that I really want everybody to think about is how do you come off? You know, how can you make yourself marketable to all genres of music? So just some things to think about, and take it easy. I'll see you next time.